Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. First of all, I want to apologise for not uploading much recently. I'm actually in the process of moving basically, so I'm on my laptop at the moment. I don't have my green screen, which means you guys get the pleasure of looking at this beautiful wallpaper behind me. But today I wanted to make a video because Blizzard has made some more nerfs to the game, and some pretty interesting ones. They're not looking so much at cards from the expansions, but they're focusing more on the classic and basic set, and there also are some changes to Hunter which are quite welcome, to be honest. I think they're quite good nerfs. So overall I think they made some good changes again. There's a couple I'm a little bit disappointed about, but let's get into it and take a look at what they've done. So first let's take a look at the changes to Hunter, and they've actually made two changes to Hunter cards which I think are quite welcome. When we look at this you'll probably see that they're quite fair. Hunter's Mark is the first one, that goes from 1 mana up to 2 mana. Now I think this is probably quite a good thing because Hunter has become very powerful and Hunter's Mark has been around forever, and I actually don't think moving it to 2 mana is such a big deal. Like, it's definitely nerfs the card a little bit, and I think it's better for the good of the game, but you can still play this card. If you've got a Candle Shot equipped that you've only paid 1 mana for, you're more than happy to pay 2 mana to get rid of a Lich King or any other big minion just by changing yourself to 1 and hitting it with your Candle Shot. So I don't think this is that bad. I think this card can still be played. In Hunter there isn't really an even and odd archetype. Sometimes you can play Odd Hunter, but it's kind of not that big a deal. So I don't think this will kill the card. I just think it slows Hunter down a little bit, puts a more expensive card into their deck, one that they will still play, but I just think it puts it on a more of a fair power level. So a pretty good change to start with. Next up is another good one for Hunter, and that is the Emerald Spellstone. This has become very problematic recently with Secret Hunter or Spell Hunter. They can just play a couple of secrets and then suddenly on turn 5 they get 4 3/3 wolves with an upgraded Spellstone, and then later they can play Zul'jin and it still comes back. All the 4 minions come back again, and it can feel really oppressive if you haven't got the tools to deal with it. Even if you do put those tools to deal with it in your deck, sometimes you just haven't drawn it, so it's turn 5 isn't quick enough for you to draw it, and it just feels pretty bad when they play one of these on turn 5 and then sometimes they can play another one on turn 6. Well, the change they've made is they've moved it up to 6 mana. Again, I think is a pretty good change because it doesn't kill the card at all. This is still a very, very powerful card. Even at 6 mana, I still think this card would be played, because when you think about it, if you play the Spellstone on its own, which is very rarely done, you get 2 3/3, so it would be a 6 mana 6/6 stats, so still an average card. But once you upgrade it once, then it's a 6 mana 9/9 stats, and it's perfect. It's still really good. And the other reason I really don't think this will kill the card is because of Zul'jin. So it's just so powerful to be able to bring your Spellstones back when you play Zul'jin, that even at 6 mana this card will still be played, because it works so well with that deck, and it's just something that people are always looking for. The wolves are still beasts, they're still synergized with the rest of the deck, it's still a spell that can go into the powerful Spell Hunter deck, so it's really not a bad nerf. I think it slows the deck down. It feels better to play against, because by turn 6 it comes out a turn later. You might have better options to deal with their Spellstone, and also it just means they can't play 2 in 1 turn at 10 mana. So there's lots of kind of small things which make this quite a nice change, but I still think Hunter's such a powerful class at the moment that they will still be able to play this along with Hunter's Mark. I think both of them can still go in, even though they're just slightly weaker now. But overall I'm pretty happy that they're nerfing Hunter. I've seen so many of them on the ladder now, and rightly so, because it's so powerful. People want to play the most powerful decks. So by nerfing this, I think it just gives some of the other decks a chance, and it's a good start to these nerfs. Next up is one I'm pretty disappointed about, although I do understand, and that is a nerf to Equality. So it's a huge nerf to the Paladin class. They've actually changed it from 2 mana all the way up to 4 mana, which pretty much kills the card. I think you can still play Equality, but it really, really damages the effectiveness of the card. I think the only reason that this card might still be played at 4 mana is Wild Pyromancer. Because you can play your Pyromancer for 2 and then Equality for 4. So for 6 mana, getting a full board clear, it still kind of works. but it is a 2-card combo, so it's not as strong as it was when you played that 4 mana, which was really a cornerstone of most Paladin decks and a really strong play, especially in Control Paladins. Now honestly, I think Blizzard looked at this and thought we should nerf this to 3 mana, but then of course you can't nerf it to 3 mana because then it would go straight into Odd Paladin. And in Odd Paladin, I think it would be really overpowered at 3 mana because all of your dudes are only 1 health anyway. One good way to deal with Odd Paladin would be put a big taunt down. Well, if they've got a quality, they just play that, trade 1 dude in, and then they're just completely overrunning you. So unfortunately, they did have to move it to 4 mana. And like I said, it works with Pyromancer still potentially, but another really sort of classic combo is Equality Consecration. Now that combo will cost 8 mana, and again, like I said, it's a 2-card combo. And you can kind of compare it, I know it's from a different class, but you can kind of compare it to Twisting Nether now, which is 8 mana, which destroys all minions on the board. Equality Consecration is a tiny bit better because it doesn't kill all of your minions if you've got them on the board. But to be honest, it's a 2-card combo for 8 mana. Is it going to be too much? I think it might be. Now for me this is a bit of a shame because I enjoy playing Control Paladin decks, and Equality Consecration, Equality Pyro is just such a huge part of that deck. Being able to play it with your Pyromancer on turn 4 and getting a board clear against an Odd Rogue which has just had a huge start with the Flappy Bird, etc. It's really kind of good. It helps to kind of close the power level and really strong anti-aggro card. But now I think unfortunately it's going to take a big hit to Control Paladin, which is still a very strong deck. I think potentially people might start running Shrink Ray now instead of Equality. I don't know, it's difficult to say because Shrink Ray kind of is a different card. It does set everything to 1 and it does work with Pyromancer, but it also effectively nullifies the attack of your opponent's minions as well, which could be important. Next up is another card I don't really think needed to be nerfed, but again I do understand and I'll explain that at the end. But Flametongue Totem is going from 2 mana to 3 mana, so it's exactly the same stats, same effect, but just an increase of 1 mana. So not a huge nerf, and potentially you would still play this card in a token type deck because it's got such a really good effect, and there are other cards that support it, so it still potentially has a place. The main issue here is that it can't go into Even Shaman anymore, so going up to 3 mana, and Even Shaman is probably one of the most viable Shaman decks at the moment. You can play Evolve Shaman still, which I think is really fun and really cool deck, but it's not at the highest power level, and Even Shaman really probably is the best Shaman deck at the moment. But it can't be played in that deck anymore, so that is a huge nerf to Even Shaman, I would say. And Flametongue Totem's kind of been a staple for many strong Shaman decks over the years, so it's interesting they've decided to do this. Next up is a Rogue card, and this is another quite big one. Again, you would probably still play Coldblood because it's only changing from 1 mana to 2 mana, so the effect is exactly the same. It's an increase of just 1 mana. So for 2 mana you could still play this card, I think, because it's got such a good effect. 2 mana give a minion +4 attack, especially at the right times, is really strong. You can still play it with Leroy Jenkins. It would still work in that kind of deck if you're going for that finisher. The issue is, and the reason they've done it this way, is that you can no longer play an Odd Rogue, which is pretty huge, because I think Coldblood is a big part of Odd Rogue, because not only just is it a finisher, sometimes you can play this with a Firefly and you've got a 5/2 Firefly on the board. But if your opponent can't deal with it, just does so much early damage and then helps you to push you over the line. So it's a really big nerf to that Odd Rogue deck, and one I'm quite happy about. I don't like playing against Odd Rogues so much. I think Odd Rogues is a fine deck. It's relatively cheap and a good aggro deck basically, but I think the problem with Coldblood is it was just so strong, and now this kind of slows it down a little bit. But again, just like Hunter's Mark, I think you would still put this in a Rogue deck that wanted to play it, but you just couldn't play it in Odd Rogue anymore. So that's all of the changes, guys. It's going to be happening on February the 5th, so we haven't got long to wait for that. But let's talk about why they're nerfing these. We know about Hunter being very strong, and I'm quite happy about those changes. I don't think it kills the Hunter deck, and those are quite good changes. But they also talked about, in this press release, they talked about why they're nerfing classic and basic cards. And I agree, I definitely applaud the reasoning behind this. It's because these cards are so strong and they're going to be in the game forever. So every time you try and build a rogue deck, you'll think, maybe that I don't need to try this new card, I'll just play Coldblood because it's much better. Or every time you're making a control paladin deck, you're like, quality consecration, first 2 cards go in, pyromancer goes in. And it's the same kind of thing with flametongue totem and token shaman decks. So what that means is that over time you're just going to be playing the same kind of decks over and over and over and over again, and the only way to get rid of that is Blizzard to release similar cards that are just more powerful than those. But that's not much fun because they operate in the same way as the old cards did, but just more powerful. So they're doing the right thing in nerfing the classic and basic sets, in my opinion. And the problem they have is that when they make these changes, they can never make everybody happy. Just look at any comments on any video about nerfs or any blog post or anything about the nerfs. Some people are really happy, some people are really upset, some people think, why did they do this and not do something else? Well, this is the real problem, why don't they fix this? And the reason is that Hearthstone is such a broad game played by players who are casual, players who are hardcore, players who are free to play, players who invest loads of money. Everybody's different, everybody has different classes, everybody has favourite classes, favourite cards, different ways to play, and no matter what they do, they will struggle to keep everybody happy. And I think in this instance, nerfing the classic and basic set cards is good for long-term players like myself and players who play it regularly like myself, because the game becomes stale. But more casual players and new players will be looking at this thinking, why are they doing this? I quite like that card. That's a card that I've already got in my collection and now you're nerfing it. And from their perspective, because they don't use them so much, it's not really a big deal having to see them more often. Whereas this is a good change. I think it's a good change for the good of the game. But if they're going to be going with this constant classic and basic set, they're going to have to be doing this quite regularly. So like I said, from my perspective, I quite like change. I think it's good because it allows other cards to come in. It stops the same cards being played over and over again. But let me know what you guys think. Did they miss any cards? Should they have changed something else? Should they have adjusted the power level differently on any of these cards? I think that's one good thing they kind of did. I think apart from equality, although I understand why they did that, I think the power level change of all these cards is quite good. So I'm quite happy, but let me know in the comments what you think. Should they have done anything else? But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.